Hi, so I'm Alexis, and I'll be presenting fetal alcohol syndrome and the long-term effects. So, FAS is due to a fetus's exposure to alcohol during its mother's pregnancy. Prenatal alcohol is a teratogenic agent, meaning it can cause abnormalities or birth defects in the developing fetus. It's imperative that pregnant women immediately stop drinking when they become pregnant because fetuses can be affected as early as 2 weeks into the gestational stage. A crazy fact is that back in the day, doctors gave women alcohol orally and through injections because they believed it would reduce the chances of premature labor. Crazy. These are just some statistics explaining that 1 in 20 US school children can have FAS, which is really high. The image on the bottom right shows some of the highest percentages of mothers who drink during pregnancy, Ireland being number 1. Okay, and then here are some signs and symptoms in youth. One thing I want to point out is that many people with FAS don't show physical signs, so even though abnormalities in the face such as thin lips, small eye opening, nasal bridge, being flat, and flattened midface are some signs of FAS, you can still have FAS without any facial abnormalities. There is a lot here, but the most looked for signs are developmental delays, low IQ, and behavior problems. So one study I found observed the development of individuals with FAS from birth to 10 years old. The original sample had 72 babies, but factors slowly decreased the sample over time. The assessment procedure included pediatric, neurological, psychiatric examinations, and intelligence tests, and the clinical features assessed were in 4 groups. It was craniofacial malformations, skeletal abnormalities, internal organ abnormalities, and neurological dysfunctions. So the results in these tables explain that over a 10-year span, the percent of children with the features listed would decrease slightly, but developmental delay and microphthalmia consistently stayed a feature of children. The table on the right shows the individuals at 10 years still had a below average IQ, and these explain that signs from youth stay long term. So Morgan Fawcett is a great example of the previous study, showing that even at 19 years old, he still suffers from cognitive and neuronal delays, scoliosis, sensory integration, deformed hips, learning disabilities, short-term memory, and impulsive and behavioral issues that he has as a child. This image is from a speech he made advocating the FAS for basically the FAS awareness and explaining how he has difficulties in everyday living and continues to work in developmental therapies to grow. Epigenetics play an important part in FAS because there are so many alterations in DNA and methylated genes. These changes are tied to delays in individuals' central nervous system. Patience and consistent parenting styles are very important to help develop individuals with FAS because they need more support, especially as they tend to have behavioral issues and can be more impulsive. So, in another study, I found that ethanol was injected into mice. They found that the mice had many differences once injected, but I believe that the most important part is that they had a decreased expression of genes that regulate stress and had some other genes that were being methylated as well. This just enhances the idea that individuals with FAS need a supportive community because they will have a harder time regulating stress and their emotions. The mice were injected with ethanol also had behavioral change from average mice. I also watched a documentary that showed the daily lives of people with FAS, including examples of long-term outcomes like just having a harder time fitting into society. One example was a 20-year-old named CJ. She had the brain of an average 10-year-old statistically, which was a struggle for her in school and her social life. She described her syndrome as a ladder, able to see the steps but never being able to catch up to everyone above her. She also explained that she has a very hard time staying employed and not feeling burnt out due to difficulty with memory and impulsive behavior. So as far as diagnosis of FAS, some people are not diagnosed till adolescence because there is not a specific test other than a physical examination and checking the boxes for symptoms. Currently, there is no cure for developmental issues, but individuals can seek such as development and physical therapies to increase their state of living and health. And then these are my references. Thank you.